Good afternoon, everyone, and thanks for tuning in to EU Deal After Brexit. My name is Trevor Krayer, and today we'll be talking about the current topic on everyone's mind, Brexit. The United Kingdom's decision to withdraw from the European Union shocked the world in 2016, and now, just 4 days ago, the UK decided to make this decision a reality and officially broke away from the community. I am joined today by two very special guests who will help shed some light on this situation and talk about the potential ramifications of Brexit on another hot-button topic, the environment. I'm very pleased to welcome Pierre-Alexandre Muraz and Claire Bonvarlet. Thank you both for being here today. So let's jump right in. Claire, I understand that you've done some extensive research on air pollution. Could you tell us a little bit more about the United Kingdom's history in this area?
Yes, sure. So as we know, the UK has long been considered as the dirty man of Europe, and this nickname was mostly due to the existing air pollution issues in the country, especially when the Great British Pollution Scandal was uncovered in the 1980s. So the UK has been the biggest producer of sulfur dioxide of the European Economic Community, and its carbon emission rose up to 5 million tons a year in the 1970s. So as you can imagine, the consequences on human health and environment, but also on the country's economy were massive.
Oh yes, I can definitely see the large impact this massive amount of carbon emissions would have had on the UK. And speaking of carbon emissions, Pierre-Alexandre, I believe you have some knowledge of the European Union's carbon market and the work that it does to limit these emissions.
Yeah, absolutely. So member states of the European Union decided to create an emission trading system, which is the largest greenhouse gas emission trading system in the world. So its main goal is to reduce greenhouse gas emission, and it's working with a cap and trade principle. So company A will have a certain amount of greenhouse gas it can emit, and when it didn't emit all the totality of its allowance, to be able to trade it to a company B. So emissions are limited and carry a certain price, and all the partners have to monitor them and to give back enough allowance in order to cover their emissions.
That sounds like a very fascinating system. And have any similar initiatives or programs been created to help combat air pollution in the European Union or the United Kingdom?
Yes, indeed. Under notably the pressure exerted by the European community, the UK had no other choice but to develop and enforce a stricter air quality policy in the last few decades. So the first step to this EU law-derived integration was the transposition into national law of two European directives, the National Emission Ceiling Directives of 2001 and 2016, via the regulations of 2002 and 2018. So as we can tell, the UK over time has been able to finally get rid of this dirty man of Europe's image.
Well, that's excellent news for the UK. I also know that renewable energy can help play a huge role in helping to reduce air pollution and carbon emissions. Specifically, the Renewable Energy Directive of 2009 required all member states to develop mechanisms to ensure that by the year 2020, 20% of all community energy consumption is produced by renewable energy sources. In addition, this directive required member states to publish national renewable energy action plans with detailed measures to help them achieve their renewable energy targets. However, after Brexit, this directive is sadly no longer in effect in the UK. Now, moving on to the big question of the day, now that Brexit has become a reality, what are some changes you both expect to see in these respective policy areas?
As you just stated, now that Brexit is a reality, there is for UK, besides staying in the EU ETS,
which seems unlikely.
Two main possibilities. The first one will be the creation of a UK ETS that will be a mirroring of the actual EU ETS and therefore apply the same mechanisms. The second possibility will be for the UK to create, again, their own emission trading system, but that will this time totally stand alone from the actual EU ETS. But that seems not really realistic, even just considering how efficient is the EU ETS right now with the number of partners they have and how it will be difficult for the UK to do the same. It should also be stressed that there is a problem of relationship between the developed nations and the UK government that could, in the future, after Brexit, endanger the environmental policy. However, according to the government White House paper of July 2018, the UK is most probably willing to stay part of the EU ETS, and it's quite understandable when we know the impact UK had in the establishment of this European Union emission trading system. So what does this mean? This means that UK is willing to have a delivering cost-effective energy supplies, and that it will not necessarily, a Brexit would not necessarily lead to withdrawing from all the trading mechanism enforced under European Union directives.
Okay, well, thank you very much for that insightful response. And Claire, what do you think the effects of Brexit will be on air pollution policy in the UK?
Well, nothing's really certain at the moment, except maybe for the fact that what Boris Johnson really wants is a real rupture from EU environmental standards. That's what he said when he said this is the point of Brexit. So the first approach to Brexit, and probably the most common one amongst experts and analysts, is quite a fatalistic one. Nothing really prevents the UK government from amending its air quality standards and review the deadline for meeting them in order to weaken its air quality policy in general. There is also this substantial risk that the UK would deliberately seek to diverge from these EU standards as a way of obtaining a competitive advantage over the EU as a place to do business.
And what would you say the second approach is?
Well, the second approach is much more optimistic. We could argue that Brexit could constitute an opportunity for the UK to tackle the issue of air pollution even more effectively than it has in the past. The intent of the UK government to do so seems genuine, but also some specialists mention deficiencies in EU-derived law, which is often seen as a way too generic to actually benefit a country such as the UK. And Brexit could therefore provide for an opportunity to create a whole new set of standards and ceiling that would be more appropriate to the country's specific characteristics and interests. So nothing's for sure, but let's hope so.
Yes, we will definitely keep our fingers crossed and hope for the best. I'm afraid that's all the time we have left for today. I want to thank you both again for joining me.
Thank you.
And to our viewers back home, thanks, and have a great rest of your day.